Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to Life Before the Internet. You had to do what? And I was kind of searching for videos. So there was a few reactions that I'd done before I went away, and it was from this channel here. And it was basically like to do with items from the past that used to be this big thing, and are no longer used, and like are now obsolete, and stuff like kinds of videos looking at life from a different era pretty much. And yeah, like before the internet, I mean, the internet to sort of what it is now probably like really began like the late 90s, I think. I know the internet was around before that, but like using social media and stuff and all these kinds of things, late 90s, I think, maybe mid 90s, but I'd say late. But again, I'm not 100% sure, I could be a bit wrong with that. But how we have it now, you just go on your phone, grow up with it when you're young and all that. I'm sure a lot of people who grew up from different eras aren't the biggest fan, and even people from this current era aren't the biggest fan. But there's pros and cons of everything, right? I feel like there's a lot of pros of having internet, and there's a lot of cons. But for me, the pros outweigh the cons because I mean my job is on the internet, and I've grown up with it, so I'm so used to it. I couldn't imagine it without. But again, that's probably quite a sad thing to hear for a lot of people. That the fact that I said I couldn't imagine being without it and stuff. But when I was young, I grew up, I went to the park, I used to knock on my friends' houses, just going out all day. I miss those days. I'm not going to lie, those were my most enjoyable times. And I mean, I feel like everyone misses being a kid, right? But yeah, just going out, knocking on my friends' doors, and we'll be out all day long, just pissing around, doing whatever. They were the good times before I really knew what the internet was. But again, I was just a young kid at that time. So you always look back with good memories. But we're going to see this video, and I guess it will go into how life was before. And yeah, if you grew up without the internet, let me know your thoughts. Obviously, you grew up without it, and now you're in a world with it. Let me know your opinions on it. Because again, I feel like there are pros to it, but if you're someone who grew up without it, you're probably going to think there's a lot more cons than maybe I do. But of course there are. And yeah, we're going to just check this out and see. Maybe this video is a lot different to what I'm expecting, but we'll see. But yeah, links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions that I can't post to YouTube. But let's just jump into it. That was a long intro.
Prior to the 1990s, personal communication was pretty much still limited to phone calls and letters. In those days, long-distance calls were expensive, and you had to plan your call in advance to avoid high fees.
Oh,
People
wow.
would often write letters to friends and family as a way to keep in touch, and it could take weeks or even months for a response.
Jeez. That's so weird because again, I've just grown up with this. You just instantly get contact, FaceTime or whatever. Bro, it wasn't like this at all. Again, you'd have to wait time to get responses and all these kinds of things. Jeez.
If you needed to find out information or learn something new, the only place to go was a library, a bookstore, or your outdated set of encyclopedias. There was no Google, no Wikipedia, and no instant access to information. You had to physically go somewhere, look through books, and hope they had the information you needed. Researching before the internet was a time-consuming task, as books were organized by subject and author, and you had to flip through pages upon pages to find what you needed.
Damn. Nowadays, I'm looking for information. I just literally quickly just type up. I mean, I do it even on these videos. I just type it up on Google and you get the answers. It's crazy, man. I couldn't imagine it without that, but that's how it was.
Records, 8-track tapes, cassettes, and finally CDs were how we built our music collections. Going to the record store was half the fun. Then buying an album and listening to it on a stereo or tape deck was the only way to control what music we listened to. The radio made for some long waits to hear the song you wanted, so it was much faster to just fast forward through a tape to find it.
Damn.
TV, movies, and video games were not instantly at our fingertips either. There were no streaming services, no online gaming, and certainly no YouTube. You had to rent a movie on VHS, or watch it on TV when it aired, commercials and all. You also had to physically go to an arcade to play video games, if you didn't have an expensive home gaming system. The selection of movies and TV was way more limited, and you had to rely on a programming schedule or a certain night of the week to watch your favorite show. If for some reason you had to miss it, taping it using a VCR was the only way to watch it later.
Tough one, man.
Remember when you had to shop at a brick and mortar store? There was no Amazon, no online shopping, no home delivery, with the exception of pizza. You had to go to a store, physically look at a product, and pick it up off the shelf. If a store didn't have what you were looking for, you could go to another store or wait until it was restocked. Shopping was a time-consuming task, which required the consumer to manually compare prices and products.
When did delivery become a thing? So for like, when you say, let's say ordering food, when did delivery become an option for that? Probably like the 2000s, right? Maybe a bit earlier than that, I don't know. And then for clothes or items as well. Say you get something like off Amazon. When did Amazon start delivering things? Next day delivery was probably, I think, what, in like the 2010s? Maybe 2015, from like 2014, 15 onwards. I guess it depends on what part of the world you're from. Oh god, it's actually all so recent. It's so weird, man. Obviously, you'd have to go into these places and check things out. Probably keeps you more active and stuff. Definitely, with the world it is now, things are a lot easier. So it probably leads to people gaining weight and just becoming lazier in general, which is obviously a negative thing. But it's efficiency, right? People want efficiency and just stuff quick.
Before the internet, making travel plans was much different. You had to rely on physical maps and printed travel guides to plan your trip. You couldn't just type in your destination and get directions. You had to physically mark your route and plan for stops along the way. Booking a trip was also a hassle, as you had to call travel agencies to make arrangements. And if you wanted to know what a location was like, you had to rely on pictures in travel brochures or word of mouth from friends and family.
Damn. It's kind of how it is now, but you can see videos too, to be fair, so it's actually a lot harder.
The idea of a game night prior to the internet meant board games, cards, and tabletop games for entertainment. These games required face-to-face interaction to play.
To be fair, game nights are fun though. Who doesn't love playing a bit of Monopoly or Scrabble or whatever? It's always fun just to do this kind of thing on a board. Like, the board just feels more special. I guess he's going to go into like video games, but that's not really a game night. That's just, I mean, I guess it is. I guess that is how people do it now. But board games are more. I enjoy board games. I'm not gonna lie.
And sometimes it encouraged communication and teamwork, as players would strategize and work together to win. There was no online games, so players had to actually be in the same room to play. This often led to fun and memorable moments that brought people closer together. Watching movies, especially new releases, meant heading to the movie theater. The cinema experience was so special, with the sound and picture quality being the best you could get, and the smell of movie theater popcorn made these trips a blast for sure. It was magical to sit together in a dark room and be transported to another world, if only for a couple of hours. Cooking before the internet often meant relying on handwritten recipes, cookbooks, and word of mouth to make new dishes. People had to experiment with ingredients and rely on their own intuition to create something new. This often led to a greater appreciation of food and cooking, as people took the time to learn and understand different cooking techniques and ingredients. There was also a greater sense of community, as people would share recipes and cooking tips with each other and come together for communal meals.
We can still have communal meals and stuff, but I guess people now will literally just go on TikTok, see what a certain TikTok chef person makes and copy that, or just Google as well. I mean, it makes it easier, right? And I guess people can still do it this way if they wanted to. If they want to, you just get like a book and they can do all the stuff from the past, but now people have the option to copy specific things and they'll show you all the details. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing that maybe some people won't like, but more food options, you can try different things. I don't think that's really a negative. I don't know if this is really going into negative things. It's just sort of comparing it, to be fair. I feel like he's sort of saying he probably prefers certain things, but it's not like a negative look towards another one, I don't think, but maybe it is. But some of them are, to be fair,
News
negative.
was completely different before the internet.
Oh yeah, I feel like news back in these times would have actually been quite a useful source.
People relied on nightly news, newspapers, and magazines for their daily news, as there was no 24-hour news cycle or instant access to news updates. People would have to walk to a newsstand or subscribe to a newspaper that could be delivered to their door. We would often have to wait until the next day to read the latest news, as there were no breaking news alerts or real-time updates. The news was also generally limited to a specific region or country, as international news was often reported days after the event. Remember when people relied on film cameras and Polaroid cameras to capture memories? Digital cameras were not widely available until the late 1990s, so this meant physically going to a store to buy film and then having the pictures developed, often waiting days or even weeks to see the final results.
To be fair though, Polaroids are class. I think they are incredible. The way they make the pictures look, and it's just the style as well, they are a lot nicer just to sort of, and they make memories as well, you know, you can sort of have these flipping pictures, and it feels more like physical, you know.
You also had to be careful with the number of pictures you took, as film was limited and you couldn't just delete a picture if you didn't like it. The pictures were physical prints, and people would store them in photo albums or scrapbooks to preserve the memories.
Oh, there's a Kodak film little store thing. What? That's so wild.
The ways in which we communicate clearly have been drastically altered. Handwriting letters or speaking to someone face-to-face has been replaced by texting. Physically writing the words or using a manual typewriter meant then using correction fluid to correct any mistakes. This created a greater sense of craftsmanship, and it was a time when people took pride in their penmanship or the speed that they could type out a letter with few mistakes.
Is correction fluid like you just sort of put over the wrong letter and then you just have to write over it? I feel like there used to be, what was it called? A little thing that we used to use in school, but then they got banned. It was, you used to have like a brush in it, and you'd like dip it in, and say you've done something wrong with your writing, you just paint over it, and you'd write again. But then they got banned in the school because I think it was probably, I don't know if people were sniffing. I don't think they were in the school, but they were just worried because it could probably cause some sort of, you could get high on it or something like that. I don't know. I don't know why it was banned. Just the world, I guess, changing, right? But I can't remember what the hell it was called, and it's annoying because it's like on the tip of my tongue. And it's not correction fluid. I've not heard that term before, but it's probably similar. It's a similar thing, but I don't know the name.
Despite the limitations, life before the internet was full of fun and adventure. People made the most of what they had, and they cherished their personal connections, especially face-to-face interactions. Knowing your neighbors and actually answering the door when someone knocked was the way things were done back then.
God, it's changed now. Sometimes you ain't not touching that door.
I hope this journey back reminded you of the simple things in life and how technology has altered our lives completely. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and maybe even consider supporting the channel over on Patreon.
These pictures are so fascinating. I've seen how like stores and just the world looked in these times. What era is this? Like what, late 60s or early 70s, I guess?
If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this playlist, then visit the channel to search the Recollection Road Library.
To be fair, I might have to check some of those out in the future for more reactions, because I feel like this is the sort of content I'm going to find really fascinating to watch. Because I just like learning about these things and seeing. And obviously, I feel like a lot of you are from this era, so you've probably get a bit of a nostalgia kick from this kind of stuff. In my humble opinion, life before the internet was so much better. Nostalgia is a weird sensation. It's like happiness and sorrow all rolled into one feeling. The internet is an amazing tool, but a terrible... Yeah, that's true. It is a really bad addiction. Again, for my work, I love it, but I am someone who uses the internet a lot more than I wish I would, because it is a bad thing for that kind of stuff. I love how my childhood is basically just a YouTube history lesson now. Oh man, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. If you want more reactions to this kind of stuff, please let me know, because like I said, I'm more than happy to do loads of reactions like this in the future. But yeah, hopefully enjoyed, and until next time, let's subscribe. Peace.